Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkings podcast. So what have I been up to? I did actually release a video for those of you that missed it, and the video was for the Japanese inspired bench, so that's released. If you want to go and check that out, obviously there's links to everything in me link tree. Click the link tree, it'll take you to everything, including my YouTube channel. So also been kind of messing around a little bit with my new frame saw. The new frame saw is my new favourite tool at the moment. I think it's got a lot of potential. I have actually ordered some new blades, and I'm going to build a couple of frame saws, or a couple of frames rather. Today was really a nice day. The sun's been out, so obviously it's just been nice to get the benches out. Today I've had a couple of benches out today. I think I've actually found a little bit of, like, a little spot in the garden where I can actually set up the sawhorse workbench, where it's kind of level-ish, or at least I'm able to position the horses where everything sits pretty flush. So that's been quite cool. I did actually cut some finger joints. I think this might have been, was it the start of the week? I can't quite remember when I cut these actually. But the joints, the finger joints themselves, I started them at one end at 70 degrees, and they slowly kind of went like a radius over to 110, yes, 110 degrees, so 70 degrees on either side, whichever way you want to look at it. So at the centre, it was actually 90 degrees. To be honest, they don't actually look that good. How I envisioned them in my head, I envisioned them, like, you know, looking really cool, but they don't look like as cool as I thought they would have. I think that's partially to do with the fact that I maybe should have took them maybe down to 60 degrees and then worked all the way to 120 degrees. I think that probably would have been better, visually, I mean. But it mightn't look too bad once I get the pin portion cuts, which I should be doing tomorrow. Obviously I've been doing things in between. I did take a little bit of time out to put a new floor in the van. I've had that van. I paid a lot of money for the van, and it's just sat there for months and months, and I haven't done anything with it. I lost kind of all interest in it. So I actually took all the seats out of the back. There was a seat remaining in the back of the van, and I was trying to get maybe like a bed in a like a small kitchenette in the back of the van, obviously with the seat still being there. It just hasn't. I can't seem to get anything to work with the seat in. So I bit the bullet and I took the seat out, which means I can only get 2 people in the van, and that's including myself. So I can only get 1 passenger in the van now. So that's kind of why I didn't want to do it. But since I've took that out, obviously I've got a little kitchenette to build, and a pull-out bed. So I may do videos for these. I mean, to be honest, I think I've had me fill of doing things with the van, and if I do shoot any videos, I think it'll more than likely just be pocket all the screws, because I just haven't got the patience or the motivation to be, you know, doing like doing dovetails and other stuff like that, which I have done in previous vans. But I think it's just going to be nice, cheap and cheerful. Not so cheap actually, because I will be using birch ply. And obviously we do know the price of birch ply at the moment. We'll not get into that today, but yeah, that might be something that I do post. I have actually forgot to do this in the last couple of podcasts, so I do actually want to thank a few people. I got some really nice donations, so a shout out to Kristen Ackerman, Rashpal Singh Barra, and John Ford. So thank you very much, guys. The money that you donated to me has went pretty much paid for some new blades, obviously the metal fixings, and a couple of handles for the frame saws I'm going to be making. You pretty much paid for it. I used some of the money, ironically, from this podcast. So that's pretty cool. So thank you very much, and it's obviously going to good use. The money, again, thank you. So what impressed me, I actually laughed when I seen this video. This was a reel on Instagram. I'm not too sure who posted it. I think it was just one of those websites where they kind of just post like a bit of every sort of thing, woodworky. Yeah, it's not like a person that's doing it. It's like the person's like kind of taking everybody else's stuff. So this was a lathe, and obviously the piece of wood was spinning in the lathe, and while it was spinning in the lathe, they had a grinder fixed onto a runner at the back, and the grinder had a small woodworking, a small circular saw blade in it, and they were using it to basically like shape I think it was like a table leg, possibly something like that, but they were using it to do that. And I'll be honest, I had a good laugh about it, but it actually did do a really good job. I was like watching it and I thought, I've seen everything now. But I have to admit, it was pretty cool, and it got the job done rather quickly. They were using some sort of a template and like a guide, at the front. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Obviously, there'll be a video up on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. So today, I thought I'd talk about bench heights. So within the last week, I've had 3 benches, 3. I've had 3 benches out. Plus the saw horses, using the saw horses like independently. So basically, I've had 4 different heights, and that kind of got us thinking with stuff. Obviously, one of the things I noticed straight away when I was using the frame saw was the height of the benches I was using it on, and me personally, I found that the Roman workbench was too low for that particular bench. Bear in mind, this is a really big saw. It's the blade itself is like 700 millimeters in length, and obviously you've got the fittings, and then you've got the frame, and then you've got the handle. So I'm not sure its overall length. It must be pushing maybe like. Got to be like 900, maybe 950 millimeters. It's not far off a meter. That's a big saw. For me, it is. So when I was using it, as I said, the Roman workbench far too low, just because of the sheer size of it. So obviously the next logical thing is try it on a taller bench. So I put it on. Or rather, I got me sawhorse workbench out, and I thought that was too high when I was using the saw on that. It didn't feel right. It just felt too high for me. So I got out what I like to call me middle bench. If anyone's followed us for any length of time, they've probably seen me middle bench, and this is kind of a bit of a hybrid. It's kind of a Roman workbench, like kind of in between a Roman workbench and a tall bench. Obviously it's splayed legs, splayed and rake legs, and it's got a shelf. It's got a shelf underneath, and the shelf was solely so I could put tools and whatever else on, just to add weight to the bench, to keep the bench stationary. So I actually got that bench out, and that bench was pretty close to what I thought was a perfect height to use that particular frame. So I think once I get the new blades, and obviously the blades I've went for, and to be honest, the only blades I could get were 600 millimeters in length. So I kind of thought to myself, 600 millimeters, it's not going to be too bad for me, because obviously when I've been using that 700 millimeter saw, or the blade, obviously at whatever it is, it's 900 millimeters, it has felt a little bit too big for me. But you've got to remember, I'm only a little guy. I'm 5'6", so you can imagine like me, 5'6", using that, and then you could imagine like a guy like, let's say, 6'5", using it. It's probably going to be better suited for him. He's going to be able to utilize the length of the blade more easily than I can. Because obviously when I'm lifting it up, I've got to really go above my head. Having said that, it wasn't actually too bad. I didn't really get gassed out by using it, which is why I'm pursuing the saw, to actually learn how to use it correctly. As I said, I think it's got a lot of potential. It's going to save me a lot of like hard work. It's not too bad if you can rip down a piece of material and you get a nice rhythm going, and you're actually cutting it, at a fairly decent speed, and you're not getting gassed out. I don't mind that at all, and for me at the moment, that's kind of the goal. And I think I'm kind of reaching that goal with frame saws. I'm not going to fully know until, it's going to be a few months down the line. I've got to be honest with this, it's going to be a good few months down the line before I can actually say, yeah, I've hit the nail on the head, or no, it hasn't worked, or maybe I might get kind of an in-between. I do apologise, I digress. Let's get back to the heights of the benches. So I've used this analogy a few times, or this explanation a few times. I even think I use it in my room and workbench book, which is still free for anyone that hasn't read it and they want to read it. It's free, no sign up, nothing like that. You just click on the link and you'll either view it online or you can download it. So the explanation that I used or have used numerous times is that if I build a bench for myself, with me being 5'6", and then I have someone come over, maybe I'm showing someone something, maybe I might be doing a little bit of teaching or something, and I've got a guy that comes and he might be, I don't know, 6'5", 6'7", 6'8". Do you really think my room and workbench is going to be any good for him? I'll answer that for you. It's not going to be any good for him at all. He's going to be hunched over really badly, and it would be the same. It would be the same with me middle bench. If I put him on my middle bench, for all intents purposes, that could actually be at his knee. I think the middle bench for me, I think it's kind of mid-thigh for me, but for a bigger guy it might be at the knee, and again it's just going to be too small for him. And it's the same again if I was to put him on my sawhorse workbench, it's probably going to be too short for him, and it's going to be awkward for him. So obviously the logical thing for him would be to have a taller bench, taller room and workbench, taller middle bench, and obviously a taller sawhorse bench. So I actually come across something not so long ago, and it was a video. I can't even remember where I seen the video. I don't know if it was a reel or I don't know if it was something I come across on YouTube. As soon as there was like a few seconds of it, and I just switched the thing off, because it was in my opinion, was a total load of nonsense. I can't even remember who it was. I remember them saying your bench should be X amount of inches, and that's like going back to me, and then going back to the 6'5" guy. It doesn't work. It does not work. I can't go to anybody and say, right, that bench is probably going to be good for you. I can't do that. I mean, the best thing I can do is if I'm stood in front of somebody and them are the same height as me, I can say that'll probably be quite a good fit for you. But even then, that person mightn't like that. That person might slightly want to be 2 inches above, 2 inches below. You know, because we all have different ways of doing things. We've all got different postures. You know, there's like a lot that comes into this stuff, and I think people tend to kind of gloss over it and don't really address it. I mean, if you look at me, my posture is really, really bad. Obviously, I've got damage to my vertebrae. I've got muscle imbalances and so on and so forth. So I've got really bad posture. So if I've got someone the same height as me, but their posture's different, would it be fair for me to say that they might be more upright than me, and they might suit a slightly taller bench? Do you know what I mean? Where I'm going with this, it's just like it's one size doesn't fit all, and I've seen this umpteen times, and it's honestly, I personally think it's false information, and I have heard some quite how to put it, famous woodworkers, shall we say. I have heard famous woodworkers say this. I totally disagree with it. I think if anything, when I'm recommending, or even if anybody else is recommending heights, I personally think they should be talking about like body parts rather than heights. For instance, the middle bench, I thought that was really good for soaring, for basically me holding it's how you would hold a ladder. If you can imagine holding the ladder in front of you, if you're actually sawing something like that, I think that's really, really good height. Like to be using a frame saw, and on me it's like my bench is kind of mid-thigh. So if anyone was to say to us, kind of, can you help us out? I know you don't give sizes and heights and whatever else, but I'd really like some guidance. I think at a push, I would say, maybe start, like a couple inches down from your hip, and knock it and keep on knocking it down. I personally think, people should, if you're going to give advice about height of benches, I think that's what it should be. It's the same as a Roman workbench. Even seats, there's a bit of a science with seats as well. It's like you do have like a bog standard size of seat, if you're going into restaurants and stuff, and this kind of caters for like kind of most people. But it's the same again. It's like if you've got an extremely short guy or a child, and they're sitting on maybe like a wooden chair or something with a flat hard edge, maybe like a bench. If they're sitting there for any amount of time, it is going to start hurting them. It's just the nature of it. If you're not able to put your feet on the floor and slightly take the weights off the back of your knees on a hard surface, it will start to become uncomfortable. And it's exactly the same with a Roman workbench. It's the same again. Like what I kind of say with a Roman workbench, you should be aiming for kind of the crease in the back of your leg. That's like the height that I would recommend for a Roman workbench. Followed up by go slightly higher, and if you're not happy with it higher, same again, just knock some size off it. So let's say we've got a bench and it was perfect. We've got it and it's like, that's just a nice height. I think I've made a good choice for that. Is that the be all end all? For me, I would say no, because we've all got different tasks, and I think a lot of people forget this as well. So if you're ripping wood by hand, if you're a hand tool woodworker and you're ripping wood by hand, it's not going to be it's for me, at least for me, it's not going to be efficient for you to be ripping at a tall bench. It's going to be more efficient for you to be ripping at a lower bench. If you're using it, let's just say for argument's sake, we're using a standard Western style rip saw. It's going to be more efficient for you to use like a saw bench. Obviously, there's a reason why you see some woodworkers that are using a tall bench, and then you'll see them pull out a saw bench. That's the reason. And I think a lot of people kind of like miss this. As I said, this week I've had 4 different heights, and I wouldn't say not one height is perfect. You've only got to look at sawing. As I was saying earlier on, I thought the middle bench would probably be perfect height once I make the new frame saw at 600mm. But the 700mm, it was slightly too big. So if I was to be using a Japanese style saw, a Ryobi, however you want to say it, if I was using that Japanese saw, I would most definitely be using my Roman workbench, because I just think it's better, I can get sighted better, the body mechanics is better, even though I am hunched over a little bit, but I think it's better, it's quicker. So with the middle bench, yeah, I can use a Ryobi saw. I still think that it's better to use the Roman workbench. I just think the body mechanics it's better, it's easier. Obviously, all of this is just my opinion. And it's the same for the Sawhorse workbench, which obviously that's higher again. So can I use a Ryobi saw on there? Yes, I can. Is it any good for ripping? I personally don't think so. Not with a Ryobi saw. I don't think it's good with a Western style saw, traditional Western style saw, and I don't think it's good with the frame saw. As I stated earlier on, I felt for me it was slightly too high. But again, that's just my preference. That doesn't mean you can't use all of these saws with all of these benches. You can use them, and I've done it with all these benches. But the point that I'm making, sometimes on different benches, it's just more proficient. It's just better body mechanics to be using what our class is a correct height for me. So planing, I mean, there's certain things, the certain things with planing. For a long time I used the Roman workbench, and I still do use the Roman workbench. So if I'm edge planing, it's not too much of an issue to use a Roman workbench. And to be honest, when I'm edge planing on a Roman workbench, just because you're kind of bent over, you're kind of using your weight, and sometimes it can be quite effortless to plane like that. But I must admit, since I've built the Sawhorse workbench, obviously bringing that workpiece up, it is quite pleasurable. It's really easy on my back, and I think it's just at a nice height where I haven't got the plane too high, like more towards my solar plexus. I think that's too high. I know there's a lot of woodworkers that like to do it that height. I don't think the body mechanics is right. Just my personal opinion. But at the height it is, I think that's perfect for me at least. But as I said, if you're going to use a room or workbench, you can do it, and I've done it for a long time. But it doesn't mean it's right, does it? And obviously, the height's perfect for sawing, maybe a Japanese saw or a Western style saw. What is it for planing? Another good example of this is, you've got maybe you're doing some cross grain planing, maybe you're flattening out a slab. And I've done this on a Roman workbench, and this is not fun on a Roman workbench. I'll put my hands up to that. I've done it a few times, and it's not fun at all. Any sort of edge planing, sorry, not edge planing, any sort of cross grain planing, I personally feel is better done on a taller bench. And the last bit of edge planing I've done was on the Japanese inspired bench, and obviously I used the sawhorse workbench, and I thought that was same again. For me, that was an excellent height. It was quite effortless. Don't get us wrong, I was still out of breath, but just the height and everything, I thought that was really good. So with that being said, it kind of sounds like I'm saying that the sawhorse workbench height is optimal for me. But then you flip the script and you start talking about joints. Me personally, I think when you're cutting joints, maybe let's just say dovetails for instance. You're cutting dovetails. I personally think that you don't want them too low. I think I can't, off the top of my head, I can't quite remember where the height of the bench where it is on my body. I think it might kind of be like where my pubic bone is, sort of kind of area. Maybe slightly higher than that, just ever so slightly. So I personally think that height is way too short for cutting joints. Can you still cut joints? 100%, definitely cut them. But is it more optimal to have that joint higher and have the support there, and to be able to do things on top of the bench, like kind of marking out, using a square, using a knife to do your, create knife walls and such. I personally think it's better to have a taller bench to do that. It's the same as like a mortise and tenon joint. It's same again. It's one of those. It depends on a lot of things. I mean, for me, my eyesight is really, really bad. I should probably, there's no probably about it. I should be wearing glasses, but I won't wear them. Cutting mortises on a Roman workbench, for me, would be really, really easy if my eyesight was better. So there might be some of you that have seen it and some of you that haven't seen it, but one of a really good way to cut a mortise joint is to actually have it on the Roman workbench, sit down and actually, kind of just be sitting on the piece and start chiseling away. And it's actually quite good to do it like that, or at least it would be quite good. If I could see my lines clearly, sometimes shadows and whatever else, it can affect us. So sometimes I get good days with my eyes, some days I get bad days. So that height would be really good. But same again, a lot of people don't like that sort of technique to do it. So going back to the taller bench and having it even taller again, I mean, maybe belly button height, kind of, or just above belly button. I think that personally is a good height to do something like that. So you can see, like, kind of, one size doesn't fit all, even if you think you've got that, that final height and you think, yeah, I've got it, I've nailed it. I personally don't think you have or you will, simply because there's so many different tasks in woodworking that are better suited for different heights. Um, Another good example of this is why you see people building the likes of oh, what's it called? I think is it a bench bull? I think it's a bench bull, and it kind of looks like a a letter H. It's usually built of 2x4s or 2x6s, and it's kind of like a letter H, like sat on its side, and it gets clamped to the bench, and it raises a workpiece up, and people use it as a kind of a makeshift boxing vise. I keep on meaning to make one of these actually because they look really, really good. So simple to make. It's a very simple thing, but it looks very effective. But and then there's people that'll build mini benches to actually to actually put on top of the tall bench to actually raise pieces up. So like going back to that again, I'm reiterating this again, but it's like one size does not fit all. So if you're someone that is kind of looking for the perfect height, or maybe you're just a beginner, or maybe you're someone that's coming from power tools over hand tools, or you're starting to use hand tools a bit more, I say, me personally, don't look for the perfect height. I personally don't think you'll ever get the perfect height. You will get the perfect height for a certain task, but I don't think you'll ever have a bench that's the perfect height for everything. For me, it'll just never happen. That's it for today, guys. I think I've rabbited on enough. Thanks very much for watching, for listening. Thank you very much for the new followers on Instagram and your followers all the way through my social media. Things are really starting to pick up. So thank you very much for everyone that's helping out with that and sharing the videos and whatever else. Really appreciate it. And until the next time, I shall say and speak to you guys later.